War I didn't start in Sarajevo. It started on ledgers and interest rates. The battlefield came after the spreadsheets. The video is going to peel back the polite museum version of the war and show you the dirty financial backstory. Shady money that really pulled the trigger. How empires accidentally F themselves with their own money printers? Subscribe. Or don't, and stay blissfully broke like a pre-peasant.
After the spreadsheet.
Before War I kicked off, Europe was basically one giant casino, and the chips were gold. Every empire sat at the same table. The gold standard made them civilized. In reality, it just made them equally delusional. The gold standard was simple in theory. Every country's money was backed by gold, sitting pretty in some vault. It was supposed to keep everyone honest, but you know how that goes. Give politicians a shiny rule, and they'll find 20 loopholes before breakfast. Britain, self-appointed banker of the world, ran the biggest financial empire in history. London wasn't just a city, it was the Wall Street plus IMF plus Reddit pump group of its day. Other countries' central bank looked at Britain's Bank of England. It was a financial god, the OG money. Germany, fresh off unifying in 1871, banking France, the Franco-Prussian War. What did Iron Chancellor Bismarck do with it? He turned that French gold into the Reichsbank, Germany's national fix machine. That's when Europe's quiet arms race became a gold race. Now everyone wanted bigger reserves, tighter control, more bling in the basement. Because on the gold standard, whoever had the most it wasn't about who had the best army, it was about who had the deepest vault. France was paranoid, stacking gold like a doomsday prepper hoarding canned beans. Russia was broke but pretended otherwise, borrowing like a teenager with daddy's credit card. And Austria-Hungary still trying to make multi-ethnic empire a thing. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. By the early 1900s, Europe was tied together by an invisible web of credit, loans, and guarantees. A global game of who's who. If one domino fell, the rest would crash faster than a crypto exchange after a meme coin dump. And here's the cruel irony. Everyone thought these financial links made war impossible. After all, why would countries bomb their own debtors, right? Yeah, that's cute. Turns out when pride, paranoia, and logic packs up and leave the continent. Because soon, those loans turn into bullets and blood. June 28, 1914, Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, takes a wrong turn and gets shot by a 19-year-old Serbian nationalist with a pistol and no backup plan. Everyone learns that part in school. What they don't tell you is that bullet didn't just hit an archduke, it hit the entire European financial system. Because within weeks, every empire's carefully balanced debt structure started wobbling like a Jenga tower made of IOUs. Investors panicked, stock markets crashed, banks froze loans. Gold reserves were being hauled out of vaults like toilet paper before a lockdown. See, when the Archduke died, Austria-Hungary saw it as a perfect excuse to flex, to finally prove it was still a great power, instead of a half-decomposed empire held together by bureaucracy and wishing thinking. But to punish Serbia, they needed confidence, both military and financial. Problem was, Austria's balance sheet looked like a crime scene. So, they turned to their favorite sugar daddy, Germany. Berlin's response? Go for it. We got your back. That infamous blank check was less about politics and more about money. Germany had to show the markets it had deep pockets, that it could bankroll an ally and still keep the gold standard intact. Meanwhile, Russia, the big, clumsy bear, mobilized to defend Serbia. But mobilization costs money. And Russia's treasury was already a financial dumpster fire propped up by French loans. So, France found itself stuck financing its own potential extinction. You can't make this shit up. Britain watched this mess unfold like the cautious friend at a bar fight, knowing eventually someone's going to swing at them too. Their problem? They were the world's banker, the lender to everyone. So when Europe's markets froze, London froze with them. By late July, gold was fleeing the continent. Investors wanted out. They didn't care about honor, alliances, or national pride. They just wanted to get their money somewhere that wasn't about to explode. Central banks across Europe suspended the gold standard, the very system that was supposed to prevent panic. In other words, the great civilized order collapsed before a single trig. The war didn't start with gunfire. It started when bankers realized they couldn't cash out. So yeah, Gavrilo Princip's pistol may have killed a man. The real murder weapon was decades of financial arrogance, loaded by credit, primed by fired by panic. The second the war kicked off, gold standard, that sacred financial everyone swore by, got thrown straight out the window. All those speeches about fiscal discipline, balanced budgets, and sound money. Yeah, faster than an influencer's apology video. Within days, governments realized they couldn't afford an actual war with real gold, so they did what every panicking empire eventually does. They made up money. Central banks started printing like their lives depended, because they did. Paper money gold, war bonds replaced savings, and propaganda replaced economic literacy.
Britain charge, introducing the Bradbury notes, emerging paper money to keep banks from collapsing. Germany followed suit, flooding the economy with Reichsbank marks backed by nothing but confidence and caffeine. France, Austria printed, Russia printed so much the ruble looked like it was melting. Every country was saying the thing. Don't worry, we'll switch back to gold after the war. Spoiler, they didn't. And here's the darkly funny part. People believed it. They lined up to buy war bonds, thinking they were investing in patriotism. The posters screamed, "Lend your savings to the fatherland." Translation, give us your money now, we'll pay you back. Ordinary citizens traded their life savings for paper that would soon be worth less than a sneeze. Didn't know that yet. Because the government the truth in national pride. Meanwhile, the financial elites made sure they didn't get wrecked. Big banks' temporary guarantees, contractors got fat government checks. And the press told us good for the economy. Classic move. Privatize the gains, socialism. By 1915, Europe's entire finance system was running on fake promises and patriotic illusion. Gold was gone, inflation was rising, and nobody dared to say it out loud. Because if people lost faith in the money, collapse overnight. So the lie continued. And every country doubled down, borrowing more, printing, burning through cash like it was kindling. They weren't fighting just the enemy across, they were fighting economic gravity itself, trying to keep their currency alive long enough to win the war. But when you decouple money from reality, reality always wins. When the guns finally went silent in 1918, Europe looked less like a continent and more like a financial crime scene. The trenches were filled with corpses and the banks were with IOUs. Everyone expected some kind of peace dividend, rebuild, recover, breathe. Instead, the peace treaty came with a bill attached. Enter the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. Officially, it was justice. Unofficially, it was about revenge and reparations. France back, not just emote economically. They wanted Germany to cough up so much gold it'd never stand again. The problem? Germany didn't have the gold. They had and pain. The Allies demand 32 billion gold marks, a number it could have been plucked from a fantasy novel. To pay it, Germany had two options: tax its starving population into oblivion, or print its way to hell. They went with option 2. By the 1920s, the German mark, a loaf of bread cost millions, then trillions. Kids were playing with stacks of banknotes like Lego bricks. And the once proud Reich became a global meme for financial disaster. The Weimar Republic, that fragile new government left holding the bag, got all the blame. But the truth? The collapse was baked in from the start. You can't demand gold from a country that ran out of gold 6 years ago. Meanwhile, France and Britain weren't much better. They were drowning in own war debts, mostly who suddenly went from friendly old-eyed creditor. America basically said, you borrowed it, now pay up. So victors of World War I became slaves to their supplier. Made sure that
So, France found itself. Europe was already fighting a quiet war, a financial one, a war of banks, bonds, and egos, where everyone was trying to look rich, even if they were. Every empire had a tab open at the world's most dangerous credit, their own central banks. Germany wanted to flex. Britain wanted to stay king of the cash jungle. France was salty and loaded with revenge bonds. And Austria-Hungary? Just say that empire was basically the drunk uncle at the party, still pretending he could dance. World War I didn't start in Sarajevo. It started on in interest rates, in gold reserves, that came after the spreadsheets. This video is going to be a museum version of the Great War and show you the dirty financial the shady money games that really pulled the trigger. And if you like learning how empires only F themselves with their own money printer, or don't and stay blissfully broke like a Prussian peasant. Before War I kicked off, Europe was one giant casino, and the chips were gold. Every empire sat at the same table, and the gold standard made them civilized. In reality, it just made them equally delusional. The gold standard was simple in theory. Every country's money was real gold sitting in a vault. It was supposed to keep everyone honest. But you know how that goes. Give politicians a shiny rule, and they'll find 20 loopholes before breakfast. Britain, the self-appointed banker of the world, ran the biggest financial empire in. London wasn't just the Wall Street plus IMF plus Reddit pump group of its debt. Every other country's central bank looked at Britain's Bank of England like it was a financial god, the OG money influencer. Germany, fresh off unifying in 1871, wanted in. After spanking Franco-Prussian War, they took a massive war indemnity. Basically, you messed around and found out bill in gold. And what did Iron Chancellor Bismarck? He turned that French gold into the new Reichsbank, Germany's national flex machine. That's when Europe's quiet arms race became a gold race. Now everyone wanted bigger reserves, tighter control, more bling in the basement. Because on the gold standard, whoever had the most shiny metal had the loudest barking in global politics. It wasn't about the best army, it was about who had the deepest vault. France was paranoid. Gold I did per became Russia was broke, pretend otherwise, borrowing like a teenager with daddy's credit card. Austria-Hungary, still trying to make multi-ethnic empire a thing. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. By the early 1900s, Europe was tied together by an invisible web of credit, loans, and guarantees. A global game. Who was who? If one domino fell, the rest would crash through the crypto exchange from meme coin dump. And here's the cruel irony. Everyone thought these financial instruments made war impossible.